This is the lesson for 3-6. What you're doing today is that you are rearranging for y equals. The reason that we want to rearrange for y equals is because when you have an equation that looks like this or looks like this, it's not in that proper y equals mx plus b form. So what we need to do today in order to graph the lines later on is that we need to rearrange for y equals. We want all of our equations to start with y equals. So today, what you're going to have is you're going to have equations that look like this to start off with, but we want them in this y equals mx plus b form. We want this y equals all by itself. In all of the equations, you're going to end up with y equals, then a number, then your x, then your plus or minus. Sometimes it might be just an x all by itself. Sometimes there might be a fraction in front of the x. Sometimes there might be just an integer, whether it's positive or negative in front of the x. The last part that you want is a plus or a minus something. So that's how you want all of them to be. You want them in this y equals mx plus b form, your slope intercept form. So you're going to solve it just like you do for like a normal equation. You always want to do the opposite. So in a normal equation, to try and get the x all by itself, you would get rid of that minus 4 by doing plus 4 and plus 4, so that you get that x all by itself. In a two-step equation, you would want to get the 2x all by itself. So you'd want to do minus 1 and minus 1 to get the 2x all by itself. Then you would do divide by 2 and divide by 2 to get the x all by itself. Well, today you're not solving for x, you're solving for y. So you're going to try and get that y equals all by itself. Now, your elementary teachers lied to you. They said that you cannot rearrange subtracting equations. They said that you can rearrange adding equations like 5 plus 6. 5 plus 6 is the same thing as 6 plus 5. So you could take it and switch around the order. But they said an equation like 3 minus 1, you can't switch around the order. But they lied to you. They lied to you because at that point in time, you didn't know about negative numbers. What you can do is you can switch around the order of anything you want as long as the sign stays in front of the number. All right, the sign in front of the number needs to stay in front of the number. So this is really a positive 3 minus 1. We can take and we can switch around the order, but it's going to become negative 1 plus 3. So the negative sign, the minus sign stays in front of the 1. The positive sign or plus sign stays in front of the 3. And if you think about it, it really makes sense. 3 minus 1 is 2. Negative 1 plus 3 is 2. We can switch around when they have x's as well. 1 plus 2x is the same thing as 2x plus 1. Negative 5 plus 4x. We can take and switch around, and that would become 4x minus 5 when you switch it around. 1 minus 3x. 1 minus 3x becomes negative 3x plus 1. It becomes plus 1 because that was a positive 1. Negative 2 minus 5x becomes negative 5x minus 2. So you can just take things, switch around the order, just keep that same sign in front of the number or the letter. So now we're trying to rearrange our equations. You're not solving anything. All you're doing is rearranging it. And again, we want it in this form. We want answers like y equals 2x plus 1. That's the kind of equation that we want. So we want to try and get the y all by itself. To get this y all by itself, we would do minus x and minus x. Just like in solving an equation, whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you have to do to the other side. These x's would cancel out. Bring down your y, bring down your equal sign. Now be careful. You can't do 2 minus x. You can't subtract a number, a plain number, minus a letter. You can't do that. But we can take and we can switch around the order. 2 minus x becomes negative x plus 2. Now that's in the correct form that we want. So that's our answer today. Moving on to the middle one. Trying to get the y all by itself. We need to get rid of the minus x by doing plus x and plus x. Those x's cancel out. Bring down your y equals. Again, we can't do 1 plus x, but we can switch around the order. 1 plus x becomes x plus 1. Now it's in that correct y equals mx plus b form. 2x plus y equals 9. To get the y all by itself, we need to do minus 2x and minus 2x. Those two x's cancel out. Bring down your y, bring down your equal sign. Now, this is a classic mistake that people make. 9 minus 2x. 9 minus 2x is not 7x. What we want to do is switch around the order. You can't do a plain number minus an x, but you can switch around the order. 9 minus 2x is just negative 2x plus 9. Moving on to the next one. Getting this y all by itself. We want to get rid of the x by doing minus x and minus x. Bring down your negative y, bring down your equal sign. 3 minus x. We can't do that, but we can flip around the order. Negative x plus 3. Now you have to be careful. There is really a negative 1 in front of that x. We want just a y, or sorry, in front of the y. We want just a y equals. This says negative y or negative 1y equals. We don't want that negative 1 in front. So what we want to do is we want to divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1, and divide by negative 1. You have to divide each term individually to get the y all by itself. So divide by negative 1, negative 1, negative 1. These negative 1s would cancel out. Bring down your y equals. This is really a negative 1 in front of this x. So negative 1 divided by negative 1 is a positive 1x. 3 divided by negative 1 is negative 3. So we're going to write minus 3. This is your answer. It has the y equals all by itself, and it's in this correct y equals mx plus b form. Negative 2x plus y equals 4. Again, we want to try and get the y all by itself. So we want to get the 2y all by itself. We get the 2y all by itself by doing plus 2x and plus 2x. Bring down your 2y, bring down your equal sign. You cannot add together 4 plus 2x. You can't add together a plain number and a letter, but we can flip around the order. 4 plus 2x is the same thing as 2x plus 4. Now we have a 2 in front of that y. We want to divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. You have to divide each and every term by 2. Those 2's cancel out, so y equals 2 divided by 2 is 1x. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So we end up with y equals 1x plus 2. If you wanted to write this a little bit more maturely, you could write y equals x plus 2 instead of putting the 1 in front. Both of these answers are exactly the same. Same thing with this first one. If you wanted to write it like this instead, y equals x minus 3, those are exactly the same thing. Take a look at the third one, trying to get this negative 4y all by itself. We would have to get rid of this 8x first by doing minus 8x and minus 8x. So now we have negative 4y equals negative 8x plus 12 when we flip around the order. This says negative 4 times y. We want to divide by negative 4, divide by negative 4, and divide by negative 4. Those negative 4's cancel out. Negative 8 divided by negative 4 is a 2x. 12 divided by negative 4 is a negative 3. So we have y equals 2x minus 3. This next one is a very important example. To get the 4y all by itself, we would have to add 3x and add 3x. These 3x's cancel out. So 4y equals 3x minus 4 when we switch around the order. This is 4 times y, so we want to divide by 4, divide by 4, and divide by 4. Now, this is very, very important. Slope is the number that's in front of your x. Slope can be left as a fraction. Anytime you get a number that is not evenly divisible into the other one, you just want to leave it as a fraction. So we can leave this as 3/4 x. -4 divided by 4 is -1 or -1, and we can leave it just like that. Y equals 3/4 x minus 1. It wouldn't be wrong if you change the 3/4 into a decimal, 0.75, but you don't have to. Just make life easy for yourself. Leave it as a fraction. It'll be much easier to graph later on. Take a look at the next ones. So again, we want it in this form, y equals all by itself. To get this 6y all by itself, we need to get rid of the 5x. We get rid of the 5x by doing -5x and -5x. Bring down your 6y, bring down your equal sign. We can't do a plain number minus a 5x, but we can flip around the order. So that becomes -5x minus 24. This says 6 times y. The opposite of times is divide. So we want to divide by 6, divide by 6, divide by 6. These 6's cancel out. Bring down your y equals. Again, we can just leave this as a fraction. We don't have to write it as a decimal. We could just leave it as -5/6. -24 divided by 6 is -4. So we want to write -4. Take a look at the next one. Getting this -2y all by itself. -3x and -3x. Those 3x's cancel out. Bring down your -2y, bring down your equal sign. You can't do 6 minus 3x, but we can flip around the order to be -3x plus 6. Divide by -2, divide by -2, divide by -2 to get that y all by itself. -3 divided by -2. Now, you don't want to have ever a fraction that has 2 negatives in it. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So we can actually leave it as 3/2. You can have an improper fraction in front of your x. That's fine. If you wanted to change it to a 1.5, because that's what 3 divided by 2 is, you can, but you don't have to. Just leave it as a fraction, make your life easy. 6 divided by -2 is -3. This next one is an extremely important example. Getting the 2y all by itself, we want to add x and add x. So we have 2y equals x plus 4 when we flip around the order. This says 2 times y, so we want to divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. Here is the important part, very, very important. There is really a 1 in front of this x. So when we put it, this actually becomes 1/2 x. 4 divided by 2 is 2. In the next one, to get the -2y all by itself, we want to do -2x and -2x. So we have -2y equals -2x plus 4. Divide by -2, divide by -2, divide by -2. -2 divided by -2 is just 1. So that would be 1x. 4 divided by -2 is -2 or -2. Getting this y all by itself, we would have to do +3x and +3x. We don't have to divide in this one. 4 plus 3x, we can't add those together, but we can switch around the order. You didn't have to divide in this one because the y is all by itself already. Take a look at the next one. -5x and -5x to get the y all by itself. So y equals, you can't do a -2 minus 5x, but we can flip around the order to be -5x minus 2. In the next one, getting the 3y all by itself, +6x and +6x. So we have 3y equals 6x plus 6. Divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2x. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So plus 2. And in this next one, we have to get the 2y all by itself, minus x and minus x. So we have 2y equals negative x minus 6. Divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. So we get y equals, now here's another instance of what number is really technically in front of that x. There's really technically a 1 there. So this is negative 1/2 x. We could just leave this as a fraction. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3 or minus 3. Taking a look at just 2 more, all right, if we try and get this 5y all by itself, minus 10x and minus 10x. So 5y equals negative 10x plus 15. Divide by 5, divide by 5, divide by 5. So y equals negative 2x plus 3. And in this last one, getting the 3y all by itself plus 2x plus 2x. So 3y equals 2x plus 6, because you can't add those together. Divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. And you get 2/3 x. We could just leave that as a fraction, plus 2. By the way, I should say that if anytime you get a number at the end for your y-intercept, if you had, like, let's say that this was a 7 instead. If this was a 7, all right, if this was a 7, you would have 7 divided by 3. You should do that. Don't leave this y-intercept, this plus or minus at the end as a fraction. Turn it into a decimal. The number in front of the x you can leave as a fraction. This one you really technically shouldn't. You should change it to a decimal, because when we do graphing, it'll be easier to graph. 7 divided by 3 is 2.3 repeating. So again, leave the number as a fraction in front of the x, but change the number after it into a decimal.